Hey, I'm out at Mystic Koi again with my good friend Shawn McHenry.
Eric.
And we're gonna pick up our koi discussion on the Sanke variety. It's gonna be a good time. Let's do this, Shawn.
Yeah, let's
go.
pull it up. Like a pro.
All right, everybody's gonna wanna know, how old is she?
She's a little bit older, actually. She's 5 years old this year.
5 years, okay.
So, we've gone over Kohaku, and we've talked about how we really like that 3-step, 4-step pattern.
Sure.
And if you were to take all this black away, we'd be stuck with a beautiful Kohaku, right?
Stuck with it.
Yeah.
Oh man,
yeah.
I'm stuck with a beautiful Kohaku. Nice.
Then you add an intricacy like Sumi, or a third color of the black, and we have this beautiful Sanke. So, formal name for this fish is Taisho Sanke.
Okay.
Taisho is an era in Japan, named after Emperor Taisho.
Okay.
And that's when Sanke was first developed, around like 1912, somewhere around there.
Love that history.
Taisho
That's
area.
good stuff right there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Breeder Hoshino-san took a Kohaku and bred it with another fish called a Goromo, and came out after a couple years and noticed this red and white fish had started developing black spots.
Okay. Okay.
And the guy pretty much never looked back because it was a big breakthrough in
Right.
koi breeding.
So then they just took the Sankes, the best Sankes out of that bunch, and just kept breeding them back and forth.
Absolutely.
And culling out all the other stuff, right?
Correct. And at the same time, another family was also doing a similar thing. And that way you had two different bloodlines, which
Yes.
is really, really important. Because inbreeding is, we know,
Yeah.
never a good thing.
Not good at all.
And so the breeders in Niigata have been really, really careful to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, she's 5.
Right.
How long have you known her?
I've known her for 3 of those years.
3 of those years. So see this, there's black below there. There's Sumi that's down here. Have you seen it come up and down a couple times?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Tell us about that.
Where we see the Sumi here and here, that has yet to come. But when I bought this fish, she actually, this black step that we see here,
Yeah.
looked just like this
Okay.
Sumi step there. And so over the past couple years, that Sumi's been coming up.
Great.
And I think she needs another maybe year and a half, depending on the type of water she's in. And we'll see this Sumi step here, and then most importantly, this step here.
That one there.
Yeah.
Help balance the two sides, right?
Absolutely. And traditionally in Taisho Sanke, we really want a real bold black step right up front on the shoulders there.
Okay.
Sort of announces the fish's presence.
Right. That's good stuff. That's good news. You know, I thought like by 5 years they were that was a time where they should have revealed everything that they were going to do, but obviously there's exceptions to that rule.
Yeah, of course. So Taisho Sanke, as with all koi, we're looking for, depending on the size of your pond, we're looking for fish to finish at different times.
All right.
So if you have a jumbo koi, right, an all Japan size fish, we're talking like 36 inches. We can't maybe grow it to its size in that 5 or 6 years. So we want the Sumi to develop a little bit slower, a little bit later. We want the Sumi to come up just at the same time that the red is at its most beautiful. So I brought up this Taisho Sanke. It has a little bit different qualities to it than the first one we looked at.
This one's gorgeous. I love this one.
This is only a 2-year-old, actually from the same breeder, Marudo. But it has the Sumi much more developed on it than the big one we looked at, right? So just as we mentioned before, the Sumi is finishing at a much earlier stage. So look how beautiful the white is, look how crisp and sharp the red is, and then bam, bam, right on the shoulder there, we're introduced to this gorgeous black pattern, this black step. which gives it that very, very powerful, masculine look to her. It's a female.
Yeah, she's great. In a perfect world, I gotta ask this question. See how
Yeah.
this red patch right here, this island, there's black coming up through there. Is it preferred that might not have the black in there, or?
Oh, that's a great question, Eric. So, ideally, we want what's called Subo Sumi. Subo Sumi.
Okay, Subo Sumi.
Which basically means the black should be touching some white.
Okay.
And so we prefer this Sumi here, and we prefer this Sumi up top, and this Sumi in the back.
All right.
And if you notice, the really, really, really good Sumi here is actually on the white, touching some part of Beni, some part of red.
Right.
The reason, and this is okay, we're not bothered by this, but that Sumi isn't as good quality. If you notice it's really hard to tell on her because she's such a good quality fish, but if you look at a lower quality Sanke, you'll see the black isn't developed at all on the white, but it develops through the red very easily. So there's a lot of strong black on the red only.
Okay, got it.
So it's really easy for black to develop on red, is another way of saying it.
Okay.
And it's really, really hard for that black to come through that pure white.
So Shawn, I had one of our viewers said, hey, how come they don't just tip the bowl over and let the fish loose? How come he handles it like that?
Oh yeah, sure. It's definitely easier to do that, and you can do that.
You don't recommend handling to just anybody?
No, definitely
Right.
not. As a professional, it's great. It's great because you can move the fish from one area to another without contaminating waters. I do it because it looks really cool.
All right, let's get the next fish.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Okay, Eric. Here we have what we call Doitsu Sanke, or Doitsu Taisho Sanke. Doitsu. This is the first time I've had a Doitsu fish for you in our koi conversations. And Doitsu is a Japanese word for Deutsch, which is German. Around the 70s, roughly, the Japanese had introduced German carp, which is a scaleless carp, to their breeding program, in hopes to actually change up the bloodlines, get some big size out of it, and keep the fish healthy. The results were they got this freaking awesome scaleless fish.
So beautiful.
If you look at it, you can see this fish has no scales on it whatsoever.
So in the 70s, in Germany, they were raising scaleless carp, right, for feeding,
Correct.
make it easier
food carp.
easier to clean, easier to eat.
Sure, exactly.
So what an interesting mix that they brought this in.
And the Japanese have introduced that fish and been able to create Sanke out of it, and it makes to me it's just beautiful because it looks like as if the black and the red was just literally painted on there with a marker or a fine paintbrush.
Yeah, the fact that there's no scales gives it the most interesting effect. So how old is this one?
This is 3 years old from Koda Koi Farm. It's interesting to point that out because this is a little bit smaller fish. It's about the same size as the 2-year-old we just looked at, but this is a whole year older. Part of that has to do with the fact that the bloodline is much younger in generations because of the Doitsu bloodline.
Right.
Something else that I think is interesting to point out, if we look and see how defined these colors are, and that's done fairly naturally because the fish has no scales. So a lot of customers come up and they see this fish and they compare it to the first Sanke and say, oh man, this fish is just looks like an art piece. This has got to be a lot more expensive than a regular scaled Sanke. But actually, in order to create that deep red, that deep black, and that white on scales is a lot more complex and a lot more difficult to do, which actually makes that scaled fish more expensive or worth more than this scaleless.
So that's going to end our discussion on the Sanke variety, and that puts us to next one is?
Well, my favorite of the Go Sanke, Showa Sanshoku.
Showa. Showa used to be my favorite. I love this fish. You'll have to figure out what my favorite is a little bit later.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear.
So until next time, I'm Eric Tripp with the Pond Digger.
I'm Shawn McHenry.
Thanks for watching.